So technically, if you put this in every channel strip, you have like your own like Midi console or SSL console, depending on what you like. What up, guys? Man, here with another video. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 time hacks for Logic Pro X. Coming up next. Okay, so hack number 1 is going to be to set up channel strips as default. So every time that you hit a new channel strip but you're bringing in a new track, it's going to have all the things that you need that you usually use in your productions. So I usually have an EQ, a compressor, and now I have been using this plugin by Waves, the NLS channel. So technically, if you put this in every channel strip, you have like your own like Midi console or SSL console, depending on what you like. That is usually going to be at the end of my chain. I'm gonna leave some room here just in case I want to put some other things in. So the next step, it's buses. I'm gonna add the buses that are gonna take us to the second hack. But first, I'm gonna do the same thing that I did here for a software instrument. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy things over that I know that I usually use in every channel. The same idea for the buses. I know, and this might seem like a little tedious at the beginning, but then after you have everything done, I don't know, it just makes life a little bit easier when you're making music. So to save this process and to save the channel strips as default, what you do is go over here, settings, then you save channel strips, and we're gonna call this one hack 1. Then we're gonna replace that. Then you go over here to the MIDI track, you go do the same thing in settings, then you're gonna go save channel strip, and then hack MIDI, and then you're gonna save that. So you can name your channels however you want. And then the other thing that we have to do, there's 2 extra steps that you have to do. So we're gonna go over here to the library, then use your channel strips, then hack 1 or however you named your channel, you're gonna put it as defined as default. And then you're gonna do the same thing for your MIDI channel, define as default. And now every time that you open up an audio track or a MIDI track, the only thing that you have to do is click on load default patch, or in software instrument, you go over here and default patch, and that's gonna automatically open up all your settings with all the effects that you added. So let's open up a new audio track, and it's gonna have everything that you added to that channel, which I think it's pretty neat, because if you have a project with like 40 different tracks, then you're gonna have everything pretty much laid out, and you just have to like open different tracks, and it's gonna make your life easier. And let's do the same thing for the MIDI instruments. Again, everything is here, which is really neat. So now we're gonna go over to the buses that we created over here. This is going to be hack number 2. So I'm going to add to all the buses an EQ, because I like cutting out the bottom end so it doesn't sound muddy, or it doesn't muddy up the mix later on with the bottom end. The idea with this is, so the first one is gonna be a delay. So we're gonna go over here to delay, and I like using the echo delay. And then we're gonna go over here to a quarter. Then feedback is fine at 64. Then we're gonna call it 1/4. Then this one is going to be 16, which is gonna be pretty much the same idea. I'm gonna copy the echo effect, but instead of like 1/4, it's going to be to 16 notes. On this second one, I like adding a chorus. So chorus, just a mega wide chorus. Then over here, I'm going to add a reverb. So you can use whatever reverb you want. I'm just gonna keep it with the plugins that we have here with I was gonna say Ableton, but like Logic, you guys can see. And then we're gonna add like a long reverb here. So we're gonna go to large spaces, halls. I like using the long reverb. And then for the last 2, I'm gonna actually send them to like the same bus, which is gonna be bus number 5, right? And then I'm gonna do this as a group, so they're gonna be all sent to the same group, and the name of the group is going to be pitch. So the idea with this is we're gonna use the pitch shifter. We're gonna take away the semitones, and this is like a cool trick for vocals. And then we're gonna copy the same to the other side, and then we are gonna go to 10. And then over here, we're going to add directional mixer. And we're going to go to like -90, because that's going to go to the left side. And this one over here, we're going to go at 90. That's gonna go to the right side. And now every time that we send something to bus number 5, let me see. Yeah, bus number 5 is going to like to both at the same time. So let me bring in a vocal so you guys can hear what I'm talking about here. So this is going to be the vocal that we're going to use, and we're going to send it to bus 5. Yeah, I found it. I found it. I found it. So you can hear both sides being affected and like with different pitches. And then let's turn it off. Yeah, I found it. That's the dry signal. I found it. I found it. Yeah, I found it. Oh yeah, then you can start messing around with this. You know, you can have like a reverb. Yeah, so you can start affecting sounds that way, which is really interesting. So that's going to be the hack numero 5. I mean, hack number 5. That's going to be hack number 2. Then the other thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to generate a layout. So one thing that I like doing, and I've shown in different videos, is that I like using the markers. And we're going to go and bring a track. You guys are familiar with this track. I created it in this channel, as you guys can see, and I'm gonna like make this a little bit bigger. There's different parts to a track, so you can go in and download a track that you like or a song, and then try to like dissect in the layouts of the track, and then you can go over here and you can like chop it all up. It just gives me like a reference. So this track was made at 122. So then you can start building like different templates on what works with different tracks. So just go around and just create your own templates of the track that you would like, kind of like the idea behind it. Then you go ahead and just delete the track, and then you color code it just so you have like a visual representation. That's number 3. That's tip number 3. Then we're going to go to, this one's more like a MIDI hack, especially when you're playing, is this right here, to put the quantization directly. So like everything is going to be quantized whenever you're playing. This one's going to be off, so you guys can see it. Just an example. On. So with this off, so you can see everything's like, it's not quantized, right? Because I was just playing it at random. But now if we do the exact same thing, and I'm gonna take this out, and I'm actually just gonna duplicate this, play this. So you can see the difference, right? Everything is quantized here, and everything is not quantized. So this is gonna help you out a lot, especially if you're not a piano player or a keyboard player. So that is something to keep in mind. So we're gonna leave that one, take that off, bring that in. Then, so hack number 5, the last hack that I'm gonna show you guys is like, okay, so what are the channels that you always use in a track? This is always something super helpful to have. So there's 2 that I use at all times. I'm gonna go over here to instruments. Then I'm gonna go to like Sonic Academy kick, mono kick, and then I'm gonna call this one sidechain. This is usually like what I always use. I use a sidechain track, so it's easier to sidechain things. Zero. So now that we have this, so it doesn't sound whenever we're like making music, we go over here and then stereo out, no output. And the other one that I use at all times constantly is the one by ERM. This is the one that sends signal to the multi-clock, and the audio is gonna go directly to, and this one over here, the output is gonna go mono to the output 3 of my Apollo Twin. And those are pretty much like the 2 channels that I usually use at all times. The other thing that I love having is in my master. I like adding mastering the mix. They make this plugin that is called Levels, and it lets me see the headroom, You know, you're able to like set up the headroom, you know, depending on like what you want to do, the true peak and everything, stereo field, dynamic range, and where the bass is hitting. Then the other one that I enjoy using, it's called the PAZ Analyzer by Waves. This one's really cool. So this one lets me see if like there's clashing of frequencies happening in my mix, so it could sound better. So I use it like in the fastest in my system, and then it allows me to see a visual representation like where I might be like failing with my sounds. Then the other one that I started using as well is the Universal Audio Ampex, and this one's pretty cool. It's like a tape recorder, and I usually like using the El Gordo. uh, might depend on the type of music that you make, but this one works for me. It gives me a good idea of my sound. And the last one of the chain that I like using, it's the LL Multi Stereo, and then I use the preset Levine mastering limiter. And whenever I'm like writing a track, it gives me like an idea on like how things are going to sound at the end of the day. So yeah, that's kind of like the idea. Then the last piece of the puzzle is actually to save it as a template. So you every time that you're gonna do a track that like a deep house track, then you call it deep house, and then you have the template for it. And this is going to save you some time, some headaches on trying to figure out layouts and like all this other great stuff that happens when you're making music. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, here are some other playlists with some other videos that I've made. And if you really enjoyed my channel, just hit the bell, click subscribe so you can get more videos. All right, guys.